Bruce Lee felt the grip before the audience understood what they were seeing. A massive hand closed around his collar, pulling him off balance as his heels slid across the studio floor. The red light was on. 20 seconds to commercial. From the front row, someone laughed, then stopped. A chair scraped back too hard. Near the curtain, a man stared at the countdown clock and did not blink. The 420-pound giant leaned in closer. Not joking. Not performing. Bruce did not pull away. Behind him, movement. Another figure shifting position, ready to step in, or not. If Bruce went down now, there would be no reset. No second take. The host opened his mouth to smooth it over. Bruce stayed silent. The timer dropped under 15 seconds. And in that moment, everyone realized this was no longer television. Bruce Lee stepped into the light. As the applause crested, it sounded routine, polite, safe. Then the hand came in from the side. Not a greeting, a grip. Fingers closed hard around Bruce's collar, yanking the fabric tight against his throat. His shoulder turned without permission as his heels slid across the studio floor. From the audience, it looked playful for half a second. Up close, it was not. The red light above the camera stayed on. 20 seconds to commercial. A chair scraped back near the host's desk. Too sharp to be casual. Bruce did not pull away. He adjusted his stance by inches, trying to find traction on the polished floor. It was slick, recently cleaned. The giant leaned closer, his weight pressing forward. 420 pounds shifting into Bruce's space. The audience felt it before they understood it. A laugh started in the front row and died mid-breath. Someone whispered, "Is this part of it?" Bruce Sepp's breathing slowed deliberately. He kept his hands low, open, non-threatening. Behind him, movement. A shadow stepped closer, then stopped. From the corner of his eye, Bruce caught a glimpse of a man near the curtain staring at a digital clock. His hand hovered near a switch clipped to his belt. If Bruce went down now, there would be no correction later. No edit. The grip tightened, not lifting yet, claiming. Bruce Sepp's foot slid again. This time the audience saw it clearly. A murmur rippled through the seats as his balance dipped and recovered. Barely. The host leaned forward, smile strained. "Well," he began. The giant cut him off by pulling Bruce closer, chest to shoulder. The microphone picked up the sound of fabric stretching. Bruce felt his breath shorten. The countdown clock ticked. 15 seconds. A security guard at the aisle took a step forward, then hesitated. The producer did not signal. Bruce let his weight sink, instead of resisting upward. A small decision, a critical one. The giant felt the shift and frowned. He had expected panic. Bruce gave him stillness. 10 seconds. The studio grew quiet in a way television never does. No laughter, no cues, just bodies waiting to see who would lose balance first. Bruce kept his eyes forward. He did not struggle. He did not speak. And in that silence, control slipped out of the show's hands. The segment had been approved in a meeting that lasted less than 5 minutes. On paper it was simple. Contrast cells, size against speed, a harmless test. Backstage, the studio moved like a machine that had done this too many times to worry. Cables taped down, marks placed on the floor, headsets crackling with calm voices. Bruce Lee stood just beyond the main light, listening. He heard the rhythm of production more than the words, the steady confidence of people who believed nothing could go wrong. A production assistant brushed past him and murmured, 2 minutes. Bruce nodded once. He tested the floor again with his foot, still slick. That stayed with him. Near the monitors, a producer leaned toward the host, speaking softly. "Let it breathe," he said. "Do not jump in too early." The host smiled and adjusted his jacket. He trusted the room. He trusted the plan. Across the stage, the giant waited, rolling his shoulders, feeding off attention even before the cameras framed him. Someone laughed at something he said off mic. Bruce did not turn. He watched how the man shifted his weight. Wide stance. Forward lean. Built to push. The countdown began again. 10. Bruce stepped closer to the light. Heat pressed against his face. 9. A camera operator adjusted focus, the lens humming quietly. 8. The giant took one step forward, not into position, toward Bruce. 7. Bruce's foot slid half an inch as he settled his stance. He corrected it without looking down. 6. A man near the curtain checked a stopwatch and frowned. He did not say anything. 5. The band finished the cue. Applause rose, automatic. 4. The host lifted his chin, ready to introduce the moment. 3. The red light blinked on. 2. The producer watched the monitors closely now, closer than before. 1. The curtain parted. Bruce stepped into the applause, knowing the room believed it was in control. It was not, and no one questioned it until it was too late. The giant entered to applause that was louder than it needed to be. It was approval. Fuel. From the audience, he looked enormous, shoulders stretching the frame, each step landing with confidence, not caution. He smiled broadly and raised one hand, soaking it in. This was familiar territory. Attention felt earned. Bruce stood a few feet away, still and quiet. The contrast worked instantly. The host leaned forward, voice light, amused. "Quite the matchup," he said. The crowd laughed. The giant turned slowly toward Bruce, letting the cameras measure the difference between them. He did not rush. He enjoyed the space he took up. "Have you been this close to someone your size?" he asked, voice booming. Bruce looked at him calmly. "I stand where I am needed," Bruce said. A few people chuckled. Most stayed silent. The giant missed the silence. He stepped closer, closing the distance deliberately. Close enough for Bruce to feel the heat from his body, close enough to test reaction. Bruce shifted his feet slightly, aligning himself with the floor marks. A small movement, intentional. The giant noticed and smiled wider. He rolled his shoulders, flexing without posing. Strength displayed casually, as if it required no effort. "Strength solves problems," he said. "You push, things move." From the seats, it sounded reasonable, simple, comforting. Bruce did not argue. He watched the man's sips breathing, the rise and fall of his chest, the delay between movement and recovery. Momentum, not balance. The host laughed again, trying to keep the tone playful. "All in good fun," he said, raising a hand. The giant sip's palm hovered near Bruce Sepp's chest, not touching, waiting. The audience leaned forward without realizing it. Bruce did not retreat. He did not brace. He let the moment hang. That stillness unsettled the giant. He tapped Bruce Sepp's shoulder lightly, almost playful. The crowd reacted instantly. A ripple of sound. Bruce stepped back half a pace, controlled, maintaining alignment. It looked small. It was not. The giant laughed louder. "He moves," he said to the host. The host Sepp's smile tightened. Bruce met the giant Sip's eyes, not defiant, assessing. For the first time, something flickered across the giant's face. Not fear, pressure. He leaned in again, closer now, determined to force a reaction. From the audience, the ending already seemed decided. The giant needed to win this moment. And that need was beginning to show. The change happened without warning. The giant stepped in again, closer than before, his shoulder brushing Bruce's chest. Not an accident. A decision. The host opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. His eyes flicked toward the producer. No signal came. From the audience, the contact felt wrong. Too close, too deliberate. Bruce adjusted his stance, rotating his back foot to regain alignment. The floor resisted him again, still slick. The giant felt the adjustment and smiled. "You all right?" he asked, loud enough for laughter. A few people laughed. Most did not. Bruce raised one hand, palm open, measured. "Distance matters," Bruce said quietly. The giant leaned in. So does strength. His fingers hooked into the edge of Bruce's tunic, bunching the fabric between them. Not hard. Enough. The audience inhaled together. The host stood halfway from his chair. "Let us." A voice cut into his earpiece. "Do not interrupt." Bruce's balance shifted as the fabric pulled tight. His heel slid farther this time. A real slip. Gasp broke from the crowd. This was no longer banter. Bruce caught himself before falling, bending his knee deeper than planned. For a moment, his center dropped too low. The giant felt it. His grip tightened, not lifting yet, waiting. From the aisle, a security guard took a step forward, then stopped. The red light stayed on. Bruce Sepp's breathing slowed, deeper now. He let his weight settle downward instead of resisting upward. The giant frowned, confused by the lack of struggle. "You see," he said, forcing a laugh. "This is easy." Whispers spread through the seats. Someone turned away. Bruce Sepp's foot slid again, then found the floor. Barely. The giant widened his stance to compensate. The movement exposed his balance for a fraction of a second. Bruce noticed. Above the cameras, the countdown clock ticked. 18 seconds. Near the curtain, a hand hovered over a switch. Authority hesitated. The giant leaned in, ready to claim the moment completely. And in that hesitation, the rules changed. The giant did not rush the next move. He waited. That pause tightened the moment more than force ever could. Bruce felt the pressure along his collar and shoulder, steady and deliberate. Not pain yet, control. The giant shifted his grip higher, closer to Bruce's throat. His breathing grew louder, heavier, effort entering the exchange. Bruce Sepp's heel slid again. This time there was no clean recovery. His balance dipped forward. From the audience, it looked unmistakable. A stumble, a sharp intake of breath swept through the seats. The giant felt it and smiled. "There it is," he said into the microphone. "Now you feel it." Laughter started, then fractured. Bruce tried to reset his stance, but the space was gone now. The giant pulled him closer, chest pressing into Bruce's shoulder, too close. Bruce's breath shortened despite his control. For the first time, Bruce Sepp's hand came up quickly, not to strike, to brace. The audience saw it. They saw Bruce need something. The host stood abruptly, chair scraping loud against the floor. A security guard took 2 full steps down the aisle. The producer lifted a hand sharply, not to stop it, to keep it going. The giant lifted, not fully, just enough that Bruce Sepp's toes skimmed the floor. The room froze. From the front row, a woman covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "He's Sepp's going to drop him." Bruce Sepp's vision narrowed. Not fear, focus. The floor was gone. Leverage was gone. Bruce Sepp's foot searched for traction and failed. For half a second, he was suspended between balance and collapse. This was it. The giant adjusted his grip again, arms tensing, confidence cracking as effort replaced ease. Bruce felt the change. He let his weight drop instead of resisting upward. The sudden shift forced the giant to compensate late. His stance wavered. Bruce's foot touched down. Barely. The giant tried to turn him sideways toward the cameras, forcing the image he wanted. Bruce's shoulder clipped the giant's ribs harder than planned. The contact startled them both. The giant grunted. The audience gasped. Louder now. Bruce's knee bent too deep. For a heartbeat, he was too low. One more mistake would send him down in front of everyone. Bruce closed his eyes for a breath. Then he committed. Bruce did not fight the grip. That was the moment the giant lost control. He expected resistance, a surge, a desperate pull. Instead, Bruce settled. His weight dropped by inches, not backward but downward, aligning his hips beneath him. His right foot rotated slightly on the ball, finding the only patch of traction left. The floor held. The giant inhaled, confused, preparing to force the issue. Bruce moved. Not explosively, decisively. His shoulder slipped inward beneath the giant's forearm, not breaking the hold, but changing its angle. The grip weakened without opening. The giant Sepp's elbow lifted unintentionally. His chest opened. Bruce Sepp's hand rose once. Open palm. Short, controlled. It struck beneath the jawline at an upward angle, guided by the giant's forward momentum. No wind-up, no follow-through. The sound was small, but the effect was immediate. Air left the giant's lungs in a sharp, involuntary burst. His grip loosened. Bruce stepped back half a pace. Nothing more. Gravity finished the work. The giant stumbled forward, reaching for balance that was no longer where he expected it to be. His foot slid. From the audience, it looked unreal, as if the room itself had shifted. The giant dropped to one knee, hands touching the floor to stop the fall. The impact echoed. Bruce stayed close enough to matter, but not threatening. His posture remained upright, his breathing steady. The host stood frozen behind the desk, fingers gripping the edge until his knuckles whitened. A camera operator lowered the lens without realizing it. Silence fell, not the kind cued by producers, the kind that arrives when no one knows what to do next. The giant looked up at Bruce, eyes unfocused, searching for the strength he had relied on moments earlier. It was gone. Bruce met his gaze calmly. "Stand slowly," Bruce said. It was not a command. It was an instruction. The giant obeyed. He rose carefully, testing his balance now, cautious where moments ago he had been careless. Bruce stepped back once the man was upright, hands open. Still, he did not advance. He did not celebrate. He waited. The red light above the camera remained on. No one spoke. The audience understood before words arrived. The moment had turned. and there was no going back. The giant stood there, breathing unevenly, not in pain, in disbelief. From the audience, the change was immediate. His shoulders no longer filled the space. His posture had softened, uncertain. A few people shifted in their seats, not leaning forward now, leaning back. Whispers moved through the rows, low and cautious. Someone in the front row broke eye contact and stared at the floor. A woman 2 rows back covered her mouth, not shocked but uncomfortable. This was not what they had come to see. The giant tried to smile. It failed halfway. He glanced toward the host, then back at Bruce, as if waiting for instructions. None came. Bruce stood a few steps away, hands relaxed, breathing steady. He did not stare. He did not turn his back. His calm presence pressed harder than force ever had. The host cleared his throat. "Well," he said, voice thin. "That was unexpected." The word landed and disappeared. No laughter followed. The giant swallowed and shifted his feet, testing the floor cautiously now. The same floor he had trusted minutes earlier. He looked at Bruce again. Really looked. The confidence that had carried him onto the stage was gone. In its place was calculation. Not about winning, about understanding what had just happened. Bruce stepped forward once. The movement drew a sharp intake of breath from the crowd. He stopped at armsip's length. "So much strength," Bruce said calmly. "So little balance." The giant nodded. Once, small, the room felt it. A security guard near the aisle relaxed his stance. The man near the curtain lowered his hand from the switch. Authority returned, but it felt diminished. The giant took a step back. Then another, creating space where he had once demanded it. When he turned toward the curtain, he did not look at the cameras. His steps were shorter now, measured. As the curtain closed behind him, the silence held, not a cue, a consequence. Everyone in the studio understood something had ended. Not the segment, an assumption. The red light went dark. No applause rushed in to rescue the moment. No music softened the silence. For several seconds, nothing moved. The host sat back down slowly, hands resting on the desk as if checking whether it was still real. He adjusted his tie, then stopped touching it altogether. Bruce remained where he was, just off center stage. He did not look for approval. He did not avoid attention. The giant stood near the curtain, shoulders lowered now, breathing steadying. Someone handed him a towel. He took it, not because he needed it, because his hands needed something to hold. A producer stepped out from behind the monitors, voice tight and controlled. "We are clear," he said. No one responded. Bruce walked toward the giant. Not quickly, not cautiously, normal. That alone drew glances from the crew. The giant heard the footsteps and turned. For a moment his body tensed out of habit. Then it relaxed. Bruce stopped a step away. "You are strong," Bruce said quietly. "That part is real." The giant nodded, eyes down. "But strength without direction," Bruce continued, "spends itself." There was no lecture in the words, no judgment, just fact. The giant looked up, searching Bruce's face for something he could push against. There was nothing there. "I train every day," he said after a moment. The words sounded defensive, then faded. Bruce listened. Then he said, "Train balance, train timing, train restraint." The giant considered this in silence. "I will," he said finally. Across the studio, the producer watched, uneasy. This was not something he could edit. The host approached them, hands open, unsure of his place now. "We are off the air," he said, stating the obvious. Bruce inclined his head politely. "Thank you," he said. Nothing more. He turned and walked toward the exit, his footsteps quiet on the same floor that had nearly taken him down minutes earlier. Outside, the air felt cooler, uncontrolled, honest. Bruce paused beneath the lights for a moment. Behind him, inside the studio, voices rose again. Explanations, concerns, plans to contain what had happened. Bruce did not turn back. In the days that followed, the moment would be discussed carefully, without replay, without certainty. But change does not need agreement. The giant would train differently. The crew would remember the silence. And those who witnessed it would never confuse size with control again. Bruce Lee walked into the night unchanged. The room he left behind was not.